Hello and welcome back to Howard's Cave of Wonder, a twice-a-month vlog where I share my journey through the hobby world and invite you to come along and participate as well. I am Chris, aka Howard Blues, and welcome back to the cave. Good to see you. Hopefully you've had a good couple of weeks. I know for me it's been a very busy time, and I'm glad to just be back here at my paint desk and hopefully doing some painting. I am planning to do some work on a project I started not too long ago, and that is the red Gobbo. If you missed that video, there's a link there that can help you get to that one if you want to watch that. But the red Gobbo, he's a collector series miniature that Games Workshop puts out every year. I got so enthralled with this year's version, I went out and bought a couple others. And last time I worked on assembling, we chatted, and I actually, on a different night, came down to the cave and did some priming. I thought about doing some green stuff work and gap filling, but when I looked at the miniatures, I didn't really see a lot of gaps that I cared that much about. There's on this guy, and it's really hard to see because it's all black, there's a slight gap here where the two parts of the base came together. But otherwise, if you're really looking for it, you can tell where the join is. But otherwise, it's pretty well hidden, and there's nothing that I really thought, gosh, that's a terrible. There's maybe a rough one on this one's arm, but that's not bad. The grot on a squig. Also, there's a couple of spots that are maybe a little rough, and I maybe have a way to kind of just smooth that out, especially just right around the squig's mouth. So some easy things to fix there. But the worst of it, now that I've done with the priming, is on this red Gobbo, and it's on the snowman, and it's just got this really terrible seam that runs in where it's been split in half, and I want to just try and hide it. I don't have Tamina glue, which is what a lot of people who assemble a lot of GW models use, because it tends to melt the plastic, and you can kind of use it to erase a line like this. I don't have that, and when I put on the primer, it didn't really disappear all that well. So first things first, I want to start with that. And I do have a plan of action for that. I'm going to need, an old cruddy brush. I'm going to use some Elmer's glue, some just basic PVA glue. And I have from the Army Painter their snow. And I'm hoping that if I just paint or put a little watered down glue, kind of right over that crack, sprinkle a little snow on top, it'll just kind of create just enough texture to hide that line. Now that doesn't help me with the bomb head where that line really is, but again, I have another technique that I will try, but I'm hoping to get those kind of things done right away so that I can get to putting some paint on these things, and hopefully you can enjoy that. So let's start with this process. So I gotta shake up my glue, and we'll just some of that right on my palette. As you can tell, I'm using my cruddy palette. Yes, I have nicer palettes. This is my cruddy palette for when I do cruddy projects, or I just don't care. And we'll just mix in a little bit of water to water it down. Just maybe not quite so thick, just kind of, water it down, because I really just want the thinnest of thin coats on this. Let's open the snow. You all can watch me struggle to figure out how to open this container. Maybe I won't struggle that much. Howard's hobby tip 101 when talking to other people about hobby. If you say you're going to struggle, you won't struggle. And therefore, you look good. And even if you do struggle, you called it, and people will realize you're just recognizing your own weakness. This has been Hobby Tips with Hal. You're welcome. Anyway, if you haven't figured out, I'm a little bit of a lighthearted kind of person. I don't take too much stuff too seriously when it comes to hobbying. This is my relaxation time, my zen. And I don't know how well this is going to work. It's an experiment. It's the fun part. So, again, just putting on a little bit of glue. And I'm just kind of coming over. Should maybe move this so you can see it. Just have my snow. Just coming in. Just trying to, again, sprinkle some right on there. Now, I did get my glue a little bit further than I kind of expected, but I'm kind of hoping if I just take my brush here, so I can just kind of put it in. I'm just trying to break up that line. I'm hoping to just put a little bit of texture on that will obscure and hide it. That's what I'm going for here. And I probably, just kind of looking at it, will maybe extend out kind of where I go with it to just add a little bit of other texture to this model, just to, again, kind of hide the sins. I'm just gonna, as I said, just kind of put some glue here and there. I don't really mind that my snowman gets a little extra texture here and there. Almost dipped my gluey brush into my snow. So just, again, just enhancing the texture just a little bit. And just adding to it. So he looks a little weird, a little funny, but I think it'll help break up some of the texture. And it looks weird now because it's white, and so it pops out so much. And looking at the head, I have kind of that same problem. Just going to, and kind of just put a little glue everywhere, but making sure that I really hit that seam. He's been slightly snowed, and it's just enough little texture. It's not a lot of texture, it's just a little bit. Now, one of the other things that you can do, and this is the other way to kind of fill seams, and especially where I don't have this texture that I need to add to it. So, like in the case of my squig guy here, you can see there's just a seam line kind of right in here. And so with that, this is a trick I learned from Ed Pugh, one of the Pugh brothers of Reaper Miniatures. In this case, since I still have glue on my plate, I am actually just going to take this white PVA glue, and I'm just going to try and brush it into that seam line is. The idea being that the glue will kind of work as a gap filler, so when it dries, it should hopefully fill that gap enough to just hide it. So just putting some glue on my brush, bringing it in. And the good thing is, if if I keep it kind of on the thin side, it's not going to be so bad that it's going to, again, ruin anything. It's just going to kind of help fill in those gaps a little bit. Not necessarily destroy any detail or anything like that. So it tends to work pretty well, especially with a smaller kind of gap like this. And a good thing about like a PVA glue like this, it does not take long. Now we wait. I'm kidding. I'm not going to make you sit here and wait. This is where I could do the, a transition, a time warp. If I was one of those TV cooking shows, I could go, good thing I've already got this one that's been, sitting here curing for a while. It doesn't work that way with hobbies. So one of the things I wanted to talk about while we wait is a game that I played recently. I don't get to play a lot of games these days. I used to get to play a bit more because I had family. My family has been my game group now for a while. And part of that is, as much as it would seem like I'm an extrovert, because I'm out here, I'm putting myself out on the internet. I host a weekly podcast. I do this show. This is me forcing myself, my introverted self, to be an extrovert, to put myself out there, but also just to encourage myself to talk about my hobby. And that's why this is more of a vlog style than me trying to be one of those tutorial things. One, I don't believe that greatly in myself that I'm that good. I think I do okay. But I just wanted to put myself out there because I am an introvert. And for that reason, it's been hard for me to find a game group and to be part of a regular game group. I don't do well with large groups. I discovered when I went to college that I have a certain level of social anxiety. I don't like large groups. I don't even really like small groups. I'm great one-on-one with some people, although depending on the person, I sometimes even struggle in one-on-one situations just because I'm afraid of what people think of me. I grew up in kind of a judgmental household in some things. I'm the only really geeky guy in my family. I'm super geeky compared to the rest of my family. I'm different. I'm an oddball. That's okay. I'm fine with that. But anyway, my game group is my family. And unfortunately, due to circumstances that have occurred, I haven't got to do a lot of gaming. My mother-in-law was diagnosed with cancer this kind of end of this summer. And so focus has been on her treatment. And so the family has not gotten together. We haven't played games where we used to get together 2-3 times a month and have just a day of playing games and a meal. And it was great. And so I don't have that right now. So it's rare that I get to. But during one of my mother-in-law's stints in the hospital where she was taken care of, we did invite my father-in-law over, and me and my son Junior, we engaged him in a game from Restoration Games called Crossbows and Catapults. It's a really kind of fun game, and I bought it because I knew my son would enjoy it. You get to build a castle, and then you square off against an opponent who has built their castle, and you're trying to take out all their guys. And you do this by shooting discs, either with a catapult or a crossbow. There's some cards to allow for some strategy and some play. And we had a great time with it. He's 4, and so it's maybe a little bit above him. So I helped him on that team and kind of helped him with some of the mechanisms and such. But he got to choose which cards he played and which targets we shot at and all of that. But we had a great time. It's a really fun game. And I enjoyed it. I'm glad I backed it, and I can see us having a lot of fun with it here on out. But a great game. I don't have a rating system on this channel yet. I'm gonna have to come up. It's always fun to come up with some cliche or gimmicky rating system. Well, I'll have to think about that. and what to rate it. But I rate it pretty high. You know, out of a standard out of 5 system, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5. It's great. The only real downside is it's 2-player. I mean, you can kind of play it 4, but it's really 2-player. And that's okay, but usually when I do have a game group, you know, I have anywhere from like 4 to 8 players, usually 4 to 6. So I kind of have had to pick up bigger games, and so it doesn't really suit that need. So I don't know how much it'll get to the table in that regard, but it should get to the table some, and that's okay. You guys can't see it because I'm gonna clearly edit out all of it, but every time I take a drink of my drink, my camera, which has a face tracker on it, loses track of my face. My camera goes off that way, and I just went a little bit. All right, getting back to our project here at hand, and it's looking good. I'm getting a lot of it to have nicely dried and covered a lot of the gaps. There's a couple here on the bomb that are maybe a little still too apparent. So we'll try and cram some more glue in there. For the most part, just as I thought it would, it is hiding the seams pretty well. The other thing to always remember when doing something like this is you're still going to probably be able to see the seams until you then put on some more paint. And I'm going to put on a little bit of a little bit more primer, and hopefully that'll cover it up. So we'll let that guy go. But on the other ones where I have done this, yeah, it's looking fine. We're looking good. So since that green Gobbo is still drying, let's jump to this green Gobbo. This is Green Gobbo Surprise. And sheesh, where do I want to start with you? That's always the interesting question of where to start with a model. Especially one as detailed as this. So sometimes I look at it and I go, okay, what are the different materials that are on here? Because that might determine where I decide to start. So things like the fact that he's got furs, maybe that's a good place to start. I'll probably want to do some dry brushing with that. I don't want it to get on the other surfaces. That could be a good start. Same tends to be with metal. I tend to like to kind of dry brush on metal. I will paint metal, and I am not non-metallic metal. I have not been able to wrap my head around. I know the basic principles of it. I just am not there. So I tend to look at, you know, those sorts of things. Where are such? The other technique that I learned when I was just kind of starting out this is to start at the in and work your way out. Meaning start at the greatest recess or the lowest level or layer and work your way out. So for instance, if we were using me as an example, I'd probably do my face, my flesh tones first, then hair would probably be kind of next in that, and then clothes. Especially if it was a situation where I'm wearing a hoodie or a hood like this. Because now that I'm wearing this hood, a lot of this inner face is going to, one, be shadowed by that, but trying to paint this, you know, it's not going to be too hard. So start with this, get my face where it's okay that if I, in moving my brush, bump, say, like the edge of my hoodie, because I can hopefully go back in and paint that green color. So just some things that I tend to think about when I look at a model like this. what is the innermost layer, and work my way out. The other thing that I have found myself tending to do, when I first started, I would tend to try to finish one of, like, if I started with a skin, I would finish all the skin. So I was going to do all of the highlighting, all of the shadows, all of the blending. I would try and get all of that done in one go. And then I would move on to the next thing. So if I started with the skin, then the next thing would be the clothes. And then I would move from the clothes to this. And then I'd move, I'd do one kind of color range at a time, one element at a time. Where I found that I had issues with that is that I would do things that were so good that I feared the next layer. An example, I have this dwarf. He's a nice looking dwarf bartender. If I put him up on this cam, I'm going to just tell you, I love the mugs I did for this. The mugs on this guy, I have lovely wood grain. I am so thrilled with it. Same with the barrel. I love the wood tones I've done with it. However, because I did such excellent wood tones, I have been scared to death to touch anything else. I've been scared to touch the foam. I was scared to do the metal. And I've done one coat on the metal, so it's nice and shiny, but I probably need to grime it up a little bit, but I don't want to because I don't want to damage the wood. This is what I mean. This is the problem I had. I did too nice of a job on a section of it, and now I'm scared to move on. And this is what sometimes causes painter paralysis, this fear that I'm going to screw up that really nice paint job. So what has been my cure for that for myself, and I'm going to share so that I have started just trying to base coat everything, and then I'll work up from there. So different model, different example. Take this guy. I forget his exact name, but he's a Riot Quest model from Privateer Press. And what you will see on him, and he's in some kind of different stages, but you'll see I have base coated everything with him. And then I have slowly been going in and working on adding in the highlights and such. Now, some things like the coat, you might go, gosh, that's so good. That's some speed paint and kind of a slap chop coat. Looks pretty good. But the things like his bags and the sashes are still just kind of that base coat. And so I need to work on those layers. And I find that if I at least get it base coated, I feel pretty good about where stuff is. And then I know, like, okay, if it's base coated, if I'm going to do a wash, it's maybe okay if a little bit of my wash cross-contaminates, because at least it's already base coated. And so I'll kind of do all of the washes. And then I'll go back in and do the highlights. Or I will do all my blends, and then I will do all my glazes. So I kind of have changed my thinking and kind of base coat, and then kind of follow all of the steps kind of together. And when I've done that, I've been much happier with the stuff that I've produced. And because I'm happier and I'm more engaged, I'm more productive. I don't get stuck. I don't sit there and go, I fear for this model. No, I know even if I make a mistake, it's not too far off. It's not the really nice wood grain mugs, which I fear. I will finish that model, but right now, I gotta get over that. I gotta get over that fear. Good job, Face Track. You stayed on that time. All right. I think I've stalled long enough. My glue seems to have worked. There's still a bit of a seam line, but that could also just be the transfer to the glue. So the next thing I need to do on that, I'm going to use a little Reaper Miniatures black primer. This guy right here. I'm going to brush it on. I might be saying, Howard, you use brush on primer? Yeah. I used to use a lot of aerosol primers, but the problem is I live in North Dakota, and today was gorgeous. Today was like 41 degrees out here in December. That's great. But for most of the winter, it's too cold to do to do priming with an aerosol can. I'd have to do it in my garage, and then I have to deal with paint fumes and all of that. And so I don't like doing that. I don't have an airbrush. Mostly because all I would ever use an airbrush for would be priming. And that just seems like a lot of setup and cleanup just for primer. And so a couple years ago, I switched over to doing brush primer and have found that to be to work pretty well. So I'm just kind of going in with my primer and just hitting all of that new snow. And as I said, all that is really doing is just adding some texture to my snowman, which kind of hides then the lines, the mold lines. So now he does look like a little bit crunchier snowman, not quite as smooth as he was, but I am, as I said, I'm okay with that. One, because if you have ever made a snowman, you know that it is near impossible to get a perfect, like, snowball. If you're like me, they always end up a little wonky, a little lumpy, and such. So I'm kind of okay with this not being perfect. But if it hides my mold line, I will consider it a successful hiding. And just by applying that texture over more of the snowman, it hides the fact that I did that. So getting in there, as I said, he just now looks a little bit more chunky, a little bit more texturized, a little more lived in. Come up here, get this. Coat it in so that hopefully that will hide all the cracks. And voila, we have a new, slightly more texturized, but slightly less mold line covered red Gobbo snowman. So, while that tries, it is time to start painting something. We got to start painting something. Now, when it comes to paint schemes, paint colors, paint things like that, I tend to look at a couple of things. If it's for a game, I try my hardest to duplicate the game. I gotta stop saying I try my hardest to duplicate the game. The reason for that is a lot of times with a lot of the games I have, I'm trying to find the piece. So if I'm playing a particular hero, I want to be able to find that hero. To do that, I got to match the card. So in those circumstances, I try my hardest to match the paint scheme as depicted in the art. It helps in that sense. In a case like this isn't for a game. So I'm free to go about painting it however I see fit. But that said, sometimes you like a little inspiration. So in this case, I have kept, of course he's on the bottom, kept the box art. And I did that more or less so that I could see some of the things. There's some great kind of pictures of it on the back that show some different aspects of it. It can help me figure out what different items are, some of their color choices on things, and really just help me to figure out maybe what I want to do with this. So it doesn't mean I'm going to duplicate this scheme. Not really. But it helps to know, like, that this little piece up here is a paintbrush. That we have a paint pot in here. There's what looks like a grenade. Again, so sometimes being able to see it, there's another paint pot here. Meant to be a Citadel paint pot. Seeing that stuff can at least help me know, okay, that's what that is. Lets me know where I should go and maybe how I should think about painting it. But I'm going to start with I think the skin. Yeah. I'm going to start with the skin. Oh, now they go with a really light-skinned Gobbo. I mean that's kind of their scheme with their things. They're not really a full-on green. It is much more. It looks like kind of a desaturated light green with a little bit of yellowish in it. So I'm going to try and keep to that a little bit because it's too easy to go green. I mean, I have this Mantic Orc, and he is green as grass. I know that did not have time to focus, but yeah, he's green as grass. I don't know that I want that for this, because to me, the green Gobbo, and I don't even know all the lore, but to me, the green Gobbo is a bit more of a mischievous, so he's not really... I want something that's a little bit more off. I want you to feel off about him. I want it to be like, if you were to see him, you would be like, one, I know that's not Santa, but I don't know that I can trust him. So, for that, I think I want to pull a couple of colors. Yeah, look at this. So, a couple of things that I have here. I have a Ghostfire green, which it needs a good shake. This is again, it's kind of got that light green to it. There we go. So, yeah, just kind of a palish green, but it has a little bit of a life to it. It's not completely flat. So that's a ghost. It's Ghostfire. Most of my stuff is Reaper paints. It's just how it tends to be. I have then a little bit of what this is called Grave Gloom. So it's a little bit more desaturated color into it. Oh, you know what? I actually grabbed two of the same. Let me return you, Grave Gloom. And actually, let's grab this. I've been looking at this one. I'm like, why does this feel like it's better? This is a color called Dungeon Slime. And it's a little bit more of a yellowish green, which is good, because I think that'll add some life into it. And then we wrap it up with some Bogard green, which is a very, very desaturated green, almost white, which I'm going to use for my highlight color. My highest of highlights. Because I try not to use just straight white. So I have kind of, as I said, 4 greens. Probably not a super heavy shadow. If I would say that I'm missing anything, I really don't have a super shadow, but I'm kind of okay with that. One thing that I've noticed looking at the art, they clearly went with some coloration on like his nose, the Gobbo's nose, the little pinkish right on the end. So I'll see if I want to do that towards the end. Looking at how these are depicted on some of the others, they all have that same pinkish tone to the noses. I'm not a huge fan. The newest Gobbo is very, very slight. I think that's more where I'm going to go with this. So let's start with some Ghostfire. And when I'm doing something like this, and I have, in this case, several goblins, including a non-GW, but it's a Reaper Santa Goblin. I'm going to just do all the colors all at once, because that just makes the most sense to me. So, you ever have this if you use a dropper bottle where it's clogged? So the end of my bottle is clogged. Let me do a little pitch here. for, and mine's going to look a little ugly, but it's used the classic, all-time great Reaper Pokey Tool. This thing is amazing. It is really just a T-pin. You can kind of see it cast in there. So it's a heavy T-pin that has had this skull basically cast onto it, and it works great. You just line it up, give it a poke, hold on, there we go, and now, boom. Excellent. I love the Reaper Pokey tools. They are great, and they used to just do the skull. Now they do some others, and I do have quite a few of them, like this Owlbear Pokey tool. I have a pirate one somewhere. I have a dragon one that I have at work. I think I have a pirate one too. I have a bunch of these. They're fantastic. Everybody should. If you use dropper bottles for your paints, go out. It's like $6-7. I think it might even less. It might even be like $5. You should get a Reaper Pokey tool. They are amazing. Anyway, so we got our green. Let's use our brush. Now, I do have nicer brushes. I'm just going to clarify. But this Reaper size 0, which is just kind of a cheap brush, has actually been a workhorse for me as of late. It's got some kinks. It's not perfect. But for a base coat brush, it works pretty well. And then usually if I have to do details, I will switch to a different brush. So, looking at this as I put the first coat down, it may not be quite the right first color. It's a little too pale. So I debating if I want to go slightly darker or if I'm just going to try and wash into a darker shade. So it's not a bad color. It's just, I think, still a bit light for what I'm wanting to achieve. So I kind of show that off. I'll come a little bit closer here. It's just not quite doing it for me. Yeah, it's just not. Let me look. Well. It's leaf green, but that is really green. I think cat eye is too bright. Trying to look at it. I think I need a, yeah, Yeah, that's it. So I'm gonna add leaf green. We're gonna go darker. We're gonna go darker and then work our way. I think that's the right call. It's just a bit too light, and I don't think that that's going to ruin that one. The fact that I did that coat. That's part of the experimentation of it. So just going back over this, you'll see. Oh, that is so much better. That is. Again, I know I said I didn't want to go too green with it, but I think it needed it needed a little bit more. We'll still work up to that green. It was just a bit too pale, and I just want to bring a little bit more life into this. And so I just didn't go dark enough with my shadow. It's all right. Welcome to painting. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna choose the wrong color sometimes. That's okay. I mean, I'm no Bob Ross, but I'll tell you, you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna try things and it's not gonna work. You just kind of gotta run with it. And I think this will work actually pretty good. So we'll see how much I can get done. I do know what time I need to be done for tonight. So you might notice as I go with this, you might notice a little bit of over painting, a little bit of slop. As I said, I'm base coating. I am not worrying so much about, am I getting this 100%? We'll see. My camera does not like these all black models. Hopefully as I base coat them, will be better. So I'm not worrying about, again, getting it 100% perfect right now. There'll be time for that. Right now, it's about putting some paint on the model, blocking stuff in, figuring out if I have the right colors. Again, I view myself as a bit more amateurish than some of those professionals out there who are going after gold demons and all of that. Kudos to them. I am, that's not me. But I am a guy who does this for sheer fun. And hopefully you're having fun. And hopefully you're doing your own projects. What are you guys working on? What do you do with your hobby time? Let me know. I think hobbies are important. And I think everybody should try and do them, and hopefully this encourages you to do a little some. And I'll tell you, even if you can only get in for a little bit at a time, you can do it. And hopefully you too can learn to paint, if you wish. I find painting to be the most relaxing of hobbies. And I never really viewed myself as an artist. I was always that kid who I could see cool things in my head, but I could not draw them. Still can't. I'm terrible at freehanding. I just do not do well with that kind of work. And so in this case, painting has shown me that, yeah, I can do art. I can do art. It just is in a different form. And I sometimes make the slightly self-deprecating, comment when people are like, "Oh, you're so good at this." I'll actually say, "Well, I mean, really, all I'm doing is three-dimensional coloring." Somebody has crafted the shapes. I'm just the guy who's kind of painting by the numbers, if you will, and making it look like something. But I don't tend to view my work as great artistry. That said, I enjoy the heck out of it. Oh, it's fun. I do like these models. They're just a fun treat. Is that a leg or is his knees sticking out? Yeah. As I said, I tend to keep the box so that I can reference art, because I couldn't tell if these were pants or if they were part of his leg in here. Apparently it's part of his leg, so we'll get that on both sides. Okay. I almost forgot there's a grot down here making snow angels. This grot is hardly wearing anything. I gotta think he's gotta be cold. In the snow. And snow angels. Either one tough grot, one crazy grot, or one Minnesotan grot. Well, he is kind of green, so maybe he's more of a Packers grot. Let me know what you think in the comments. I know. Football humor in a painting stream. I know some people would be saying, this is why you do it in sub-assemblies. I don't tend to do sub-assemblies. And there's a reason why. I am terrible. Everybody should know their own skills. I am terrible at color matching. I am being honest. So if I do something in a sub-assembly and then have to try and match it later, it's not going to happen. It's not going to. I tend to really struggle in those instances because it's hard for me. It's just I've never ever been super great at it. Oh my gosh, not wrong. Started coloring in on that, and just to find out these are actually wearing pants. So we'll let him wear his pants, man. So like I said, I'm starting in here on some of the my dark green. I'm starting at kind of the base levels, working my way up. And as I said, it's just to help me with kind of the levels and layers of it. Okay, so I thought. He's got a couple of straps that are right by the side of his head, and it just makes it a little tricky. That's why I look at things like the box art, just so I can help myself to understand what it is I'm looking at. Again, not that I'm trying to match the box art, but I like having it so that I know, hey, here's what I'm painting, here's my different colors, or just making sure that I'm not coloring something that I then later go, what on earth was I thinking with that? So, having myself just a wonderful time. Always a good time when I get to be down here in the cave, and just when I get to paint. I know this is going to be one of those episodes where it's like, Aaron, you didn't do much painting on this show. That's okay. That is totally fine. My goal with this show is just to be down here and making progress and documenting, talking about what I've done. You might go, well, you haven't talked much about what you've done. Truthfully, between all of the stuff for bones and such, I really haven't done much. Checking in the Bones Kickstarter was kind of a big chunk of my time. It did not leave me a lot of time for other hobby stuff recently. So I try and do things when I get the time to do them. But it's not always on a regular basis. So I don't always get to do a lot of hobbying. And yeah, I think that snow on the snowman, I think that works. Just gives it that texture. Okay. All the Gobbos got a brief coat of paint. And look, it's a Santa Goblin from a different thing. Just to, since I have the green, let's. This is from Reaper Miniatures Holiday Miniature line. And I have been collecting these and painting them, although I'm way more behind on painting them than I care to admit. I paint these for my wife. One day, I need to work on it. We're going to do a holiday village, like you see. You might have a grandparent. My grandma was big on the holiday village stuff, and I want to do something like that, but being into the kind of geeky realm of stuff, I can't just do the ceramic ones. I need to do a little something more, and so I started collecting kind of these different fantasy figures and such, to just kind of populate it, and I want to take and make. Oh, easy. I want to take and make some custom pieces for it, and maybe have them reference some of my favorite pop culture stuff. And now that I have kids, some of theirs. So like I was thinking about it today, and I started looking at like pictures of the healer house from Bluey, because maybe we should have Bluey's house inside our Christmas village. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. All right. Well, I know that wasn't a lot of progress made on the Gobbos, but that's okay. Part of my doing this series is... I did recode him, right? Yeah. Part of my doing this series and making videos, I wanted to show people you don't have to hobby all the time. Nothing against the people who do these videos on YouTube, but their whole thing is they got to finish a project in a week. Great. If you can be a full-time YouTuber and I could sit and do nothing but paint for a week, sure, I could probably finish a project a week and make a video out of it and all that. I don't have time for that. I work 40 hours a week at my job. And then on the days that I have off right now, I take care of my kids. And so I only have my evenings. And so to me, the idea of this is to show this is what I do in a weekend. And I maybe don't get a lot done. I maybe don't get everything done that I wish to do. There's always more that I wish I could do. But you're getting to see a bit more of the process and seeing that, hey, I've been talking to you. I can see the time on my recording. I'm coming up on 70 minutes. What did I do? I fixed a mold line problem. I reprimed some things. I painted some skin a base coat of green. That's it. That's all I got done. That's okay. That's pretty good for a night. I'm coming up on 10 o'clock, which means I should go upstairs. I work tomorrow. I know it's a Saturday, but I do work. And I should start the process. I got to clean my brushes. I got to get ready for bed. I will read. I like to read every night before I go to bed. For many reasons. If you don't read, you really should, because I have found, I stopped reading for a while. I know I'm going on a weird different tangent. It's like, hang with me here. I used to read every night before I went to bed. Then when I went off to college, I stopped because I had so much mandatory reading. I stopped reading. And I tried to pick it up a bit after college, but being a teacher at that time, I was working so constantly and reading and developing stuff. I didn't have time to free read. So I got out of the habit of doing a lot of nightly reading. And so that's fine. But what I found is that I didn't sleep as well. I just had a hard time falling asleep when I didn't read before going to bed. But the other thing that to me is more important was my dreams started to suffer. I didn't have great, vibrant dreams, and now I do all the time. And so it's been a great habit. So read. A couple of things of just a quick note as I go out. I mentioned this in episode 1. I'll mention it again in case you made it this far. I have this lovely bulletin board of that I made, message board. I'm still trying to come up with ideas for what to put on the paper. So if you have an idea and a suggestion, leave it in the comments. And if it's a good one, I will try my best to put it on here. So it's a chance to participate and have something reflected on there. So give me an idea, something fun. We'll do that. Also, I'm going to just keep it mentioning it because I think it's important. And I say that I've had the privilege of knowing some great folks from North Carolina. I had a coworker who I have great respect for. Her family is from North Carolina, and I know they suffered some losses. I have a former student who, very proud of her, owns her own business in Asheville that was damaged by the hurricane. And so I like to promote, but Reaper Miniatures, who I featured their Santa Goblin part of this, they did this wonderful Koga Mossback Turtle Druid, and they have it up on their website. It's sculpted by Jason Weeby. All the proceeds from the sale of this go to help recovery efforts. So yeah, I know it's the holidays and people are spending, but if you want a miniature and have a little bit of charity to it, it's a good one. So make sure to check out that. There's a link in my show notes. Not because I'm sponsored by Reaper, I just like their stuff, and I think they're cool people. So that's enough of that promotion. As I said, this is my hobby. This is my pace. I hope that you get some inspiration from it and maybe realize that you too can do this even if all you have is a couple hours at night. And with that, thank you. If you made it this far, thank you. I appreciate everybody who has at least checked out an episode of this and who makes it this far and such. And hopefully you're doing some hobbying with me. And with that, I think it's time we wrap this up. So, I'm Our Blues saying good night, and we will catch you all down here in the cave next time. Bye, everybody.